In December 2017, Facebook did something very few might expect coming from a Silicon Valley environment that constantly claims to be changing the world for the better. They posted an article on their official blog titled, "Hard Questions: Is spending time on social media bad for us?" In the eyes of New York Times writer Farhad Manjoo, this should be regarded as a big deal. The post stands as a direct affront to the company's reason for being. It's as if Nike asked whether just doing it might not be the wisest life goal after all, or if Snapple conceded it wasn't quite positive that it really was the best stuff on earth.
This stuff.
I love that stuff.
I thought we already had the best stuff.
Yeah, but this is better stuff.
And though I don't think they featured the article prominently enough, I do commend them for openly discussing this topic, and in this video, I'd like to do the same. Now, if we go through the research, it's fairly easy to find scientific, peer-reviewed evidence that Facebook negatively impacts mental health. The least flattering paper presented in the blog post is a 2017 study that surveyed more than 5,000 people over 3 years, measuring self-reported mental health, physical health, and life satisfaction. The results showed a clear association between Facebook use, measured by likes clicked, links clicked, and status updates, and decreases in self-reported mental health. But I don't want to linger too long on the many studies that have linked social media use to sadness, dissatisfaction, and even depression. Looking at all these studies at once, the trend is clear. Scrolling through your newsfeed all day is bound to bring you down. For me, the real question is, if all these studies have shown that Facebook can negatively impact our mental health, why do we keep using it as much as any other site on the planet? To me, an even more important question than does Facebook make us sad is, how does Facebook make us sad? And why do we keep coming back for more over and over again? For the answer to this more fundamental question, we'll have to turn to perhaps the most intriguing recent wave of dissent against Facebook. In the past year, a number of people who actually worked for the company in its early stages have publicly turned against the product they helped create. The most famous of this group is Sean Parker, who was played by Justin Timberlake in the film The Social Network, and joined Facebook in its infancy.
If the thought process that went into building these applications, Facebook being the first of them to really understand it, that thought process was all about how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. And that means that we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever. And that's going to get you to contribute more content, and that's going to get you, more likes and comments. I mean, it's a social validation feedback loop.
Interestingly enough, these former employees, in their rhetoric, often focus more on words like addiction or exploitation rather than depression or mental health. Having helped create and promote the site, they're painfully aware of the ways in which it was designed to exploit basic human psychology.
We know for a fact that what all of these systems do, every single one, is it exploits our own natural tendencies in human beings to get and want feedback. And that feedback, chemically speaking, is the release of dopamine in your brain.
Now, these concepts are absolutely essential to understanding how Facebook subtly manipulates us, so I'd like to take a moment to flesh them out. For those who don't know, dopamine is the chemical reward your brain releases for certain activities, like exercising or completing a task at work. This is why we feel actual pleasure after going for a run or getting a good grade on a test. But these reward centers in our brains have countless applications far beyond exercise and hard work. This same chemical can be released by eating a slice of pizza. Again, your brain is rewarding you for finding sustenance. And the same goes for social stimuli. According to Mauricio Delgado, a psychologist at Rutgers University, the same brain areas that are activated for food and water are activated for social stimuli. This can be a smile, someone telling you that you're doing a great job, or you're a nice person, or even merely cooperating with somebody. All of these social reinforcers show similar activity in the reward centers of the brain. Essentially, our 1,000-year-old animal brains can't distinguish between the social reward of getting a like on Facebook and of having someone compliment you directly to your face.
I love you, dude. I love you, bro Montana. I love you, Holmes. I love you, Broseph Goebbels. I love you, Machacha. I love you, Tico Broje.
Okay,
Okay.
So if you've ever wondered why Facebook, within the first week you started using it, became the first thing you typed into your search bar every time you opened your computer, it's these dopamine hits, these social feedback rewards. The site provided you with unprecedented spikes in these pleasurable chemicals, so when you haven't used it in the last few hours, your hand is subconsciously guided to steer back to Facebook and create more content in order to seek out more dopamine. That's the chemical feedback loop these former Facebook employees are referring to. And like with any drug, over time the pleasure from it wanes, and while some people decide to back out and quit right there, the vast majority engage with it more and more and more and more in order to keep upping their dosage. Perhaps you've noticed that over the years, Facebook has been expanding the categories of notifications and alerting you of things that you might not actually care about, like a random friend's status update, or a live video stream, or a post in some group you joined years ago. Facebook has ramped up these types of notifications over time to ensure their users get consistent dopamine hits from the site every day, whether they're using it or not. And researchers have found that merely hearing your phone buzz or seeing that red notification produces a dopamine rush before you even click to see what the notification is. So what happens, in my experience, is that I'll see the notification, feel the satisfaction of the dopamine hit, and then click, only to find that someone I barely know was live a few hours ago, or something equally unimportant to my actual social life. And though the feeling I get when this happens isn't full-on depression, it's still a profoundly new and alienating experience. Your brain is telling you, chemically, that you've just received a smile from a guy across the room, or had a meaningful conversation with a close friend, while in reality, you really just learned that some jerk you went to high school with is celebrating his birthday today. Now, I'm no psychologist, but this disconnect between the chemical reward system in your brain and the reality of the situation seems crucial to the deflating feeling Facebook can produce. But I will admit, this is all just one side of the conversation. And though I do get more uncomfortable with Facebook the more I research its effects, I personally don't find these calls for us to completely stop using social media very practical. Instead, I'd like to explore one final question. Can Facebook make us happy? Can it positively impact mental health if used in a conscious and mindful manner? Well, that's exactly what Robert Kraut's 2016 study was all about. Taking a more complex approach, they broke Facebook use down into separate categories instead of taking the site as one uniform experience. The first was targeted composed communication, consisting of original text written for a specific person, like a wall post or a comment. The second was one-click communication, such as a like or a reaction. And the third was composed broadcasted communication, like a status update aimed at a wide audience. Beyond this, they also differentiated between communication with stronger and weaker friendships. The results may not be all that surprising, but in my opinion, this study is overwhelmingly important to consider for those who are tired of these dopamine-driven feedback loops. Essentially, they found that targeted, composed communication like direct messages, comments, or wall posts that actually engage someone in conversation with people they have close ties to has a positive effect on well-being. People engaged in this type of interaction felt they were doing a better job maintaining their existing relationships, showing their investment in those relationships, and generally feeling they had social support. On the other hand, more passive one-click communications, such as likes or reactions, were not associated with any increasing strength of social ties. And the same goes for the broadcasted communication, like status updates. These two categories didn't give people any sense of maintaining or strengthening relationships. In other words, the parts of Facebook that produce these quick dopamine hits and nothing else are ultimately unsatisfying, while more direct communication can be truly meaningful. Now, Facebook has made a few changes to their interface to encourage these more meaningful interactions, namely the new comment button under every post and an algorithmic preference for close friends and family over news sources. But we as consumers need to understand that the underlying system, which has us coming back for more and more and more, the notifications and their chemical associations, will never be fully removed from the site. So if we don't want Facebook, or any social media site for that matter, to bring us down, it's gonna be on us to maybe turn off these unnecessary notifications, and to try to recognize the difference between these brief, fleeting dopamine hits and genuine, meaningful connection.
Piece of cake.